President Trump's envoys to the Middle East are unveiling some of their master plan to rebuild Gaza. Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner says the plans will emulate other newly redeveloped Middle Eastern cities. He showed renderings of what he calls New Gaza and New Rafah, promising to empower Gazans with jobs, training, and services. Kushner says it will all be done in just 2 or 3 years, but humanitarian organizations says Gazans need critical aid now. MedGlobal Executive Director Joe Belliveau is here with more on that. Hi, Joseph. Thanks for coming on. So you say Gazans need short-term life-saving solutions, not grandiose plans. What do you mean by that?
Well, we're hearing lots about this board of peace now. And look, any kind of big picture process like that is going to actually result in some kind of improvement in the peace situation is a good thing. But it feels very, very distant from what my colleagues and the communities that MedGlobal is assisting in Gaza are experiencing right now. So over 1 million people are living in tents. Almost every one of my colleagues has had their home destroyed, and they are also living in tent circumstances. It's wintertime, it's raining frequently, it's flooding into these tents and these areas, it's cold. When I was there a little over 2 months ago, I saw barefoot children running around. We are now seeing a rise in respiratory tract infections due to the cold. The latrines in these camp areas around these tents are overflowing, and that's leading directly to a rise in diarrheal diseases. We're seeing hypothermia. In fact, unfortunately, we just lost a 2-month-old child very recently in our facilities due to hypothermia. As one woman put it, a woman who's in our program, she said, when the rain starts, the tent fills with water, my baby cannot stay warm. And we've had these really severe emergency situations and even deaths as a result of that. So that's what I mean when I say, there's this big political process going on. If that results in something good, then great. But right now, there are extreme humanitarian needs still.
The plans Kushner unveiled claim the reconstruction will create jobs, opportunity, and hope for future Gaza. What's your response to that?
Look, again, if this results in some sort of process over time that leads to an improvement in the economic situation and development and so on, that is fair and accessible and equitable to all people, especially the people of Gaza, then that's a wonderful thing. But right now, what we're experiencing are extreme violations of international humanitarian law still. Since the October 10th ceasefire that was put into place, we have seen some improvements in access of some supplies, most notably food supplies and other things. However, as another one of my colleagues just shared with me earlier today, he said the ceasefire did not bring safety. We are still treating the wounded every day. And I experienced that as well. This was also during the ceasefire period when I was there, that wounded people were coming into the hospitals and the medical facilities on an alarmingly regular basis, including women, including children. Now, coming back to international humanitarian law, the basic tenet of international humanitarian law is that civilians must be protected. All parties to conflict, regardless of what the other party has done or not done, all parties to conflict have an obligation to take measures to protect civilians in armed conflict, including medical facilities. And what we've seen is an ongoing civilians injured all the time, and 94% of the hospitals in Gaza have been partially destroyed by attacks. And we've had these attacks still ongoing since the ceasefire occurred. The other part of IHL, humanitarian law, is to allow and facilitate humanitarian aid. And although we've seen some improvement since the initiation of the ceasefire agreement, there are still severe restrictions. We are lacking gauze, we are lacking antiseptic, we are lacking antibiotics in the hospitals, and there's not enough access of staff and people to get in to assist in this crisis as well. So a return to the basic respect for IHL is what we need right now. In the bigger picture, Board of Peace, if that goes somewhere positive, we're all for it, but we need action and change right now.
I know you recently spent 2 weeks in Gaza. What signs of improvement are you seeing? And what do you think the administration, the Trump administration, all the leaders really involved in trying to repair what's happening in Gaza right now, What do you think they need to focus on in the meantime?
So what we have seen is, when I was there, I saw large convoys of trucks that were coming in with materials. Some of those materials were tents, certainly a lot of food items, and to a limited extent, some medical items as well. So I could see, for example, that there were tomatoes and oranges and avocados and things for sale in the market, still very expensive. So we had somewhat of a flooding of the market of foodstuffs, and we saw an improvement in malnutrition rates. Now, that's not reaching everybody, and we continue to see alarming malnutrition rates especially amongst, for example, pregnant and lactating women. So we're still very much seeing those kinds of issues. And again, it's this vulnerability. So we were seeing a lot of tents coming in, but the fact that people have to live in tents in the first place, now exposed to the floods that we were just talking about, the cold and so on, it's no dignified way to live. And it's also very dangerous from a health perspective. So when we come back to these, again, to the kind of political process that could lead to potentially a phase 2, implementation of peacekeepers and a move, gradually more and more towards a peaceful situation, that is very welcome. And especially if that includes an opening up of the borders, a putting down of weapons and a real ceasefire, all those things would be very positive. But again, we need to keep, as humanitarians, it's our preoccupation to look at the needs of the people who are right in front of us. And right in front of us, we're seeing, bare feet children getting hypothermia. We're seeing diarrheal diseases. We're seeing people who are injured showing up at hospitals who can't get the proper care because there's no antiseptic in the hospital, or there's not a surgeon on that particular day in the hospital. It's these kinds of immediate health needs and humanitarian needs that must not get lost in the bigger political discussion.
All right, MedGlobal Executive Director Joseph Belliveau, we appreciate your time today and the work you're doing. Thank you.
Thanks very much.